Okay, we'll call this meeting of the Utah County Planning Commission to order. It's September 16th. It's 5:30 p.m. and we do have a quorum present. Just to announce, there is an attendance roll at the door and a place there to indicate whether you want to speak during the meeting tonight. So make sure you sign in there. Our first order of business is to approve our minutes. We have a motion. Do we have any concerns with the minutes that were included with the packet, Commission?
I'll move that we approve the minutes.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from our August 19th meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes have been approved. If we move to our next item of business, I know we've got the Pacific Core item on the agenda, but do we have some?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Bryce Armstrong, Community Development Staff. We received a request from the applicant to continue this matter. Initially, that request should have been forwarded to you, to your emails. I think that request was to continue it to the next month. I do believe that the applicant is here and may wish to address some point of that request. So,
Okay, so and just to be clear for those in attendance, continue means just to pick it up next month and to not make a decision tonight based on their request to provide some more information over the next 30 days. Is that how we
correct.
understand
It would be to continue to the date that you will set.
To the date we set.
Whether
Okay.
that's next month or a later date. That
Okay.
would be the date that the matter would be deliberated and potentially decided on, acted upon.
Okay. The applicant here, do you want to speak to your request to continue?
Yeah, good evening. Thank you. My name is John Hutchings on behalf of Rocky Mountain Power. Yeah, we're here to seek a continuation. We'd actually like to ask for 60 days instead of 30 to your November meeting and stay any decision until November. And then if the continuation is granted, we'd actually like to also ask that the 60-day requirement to approve or deny the application in 5418-304-1A be told while the matter is continued till November.
Please state that again. I'm not sure I understood what you're asking.
In Utah Code 5418-304A1, there's a requirement that the commission approve or deny the application within 60 days. Yep. We'd like to just ask that time period is told while the matter is continued.
That that be held for the same 60 days.
Or paused, told.
Are
Okay.
we allowed to do that?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
In fact, it is being, because of your action last month, it is being told right now. Yes. The 60 days is not running.
Okay. Okay, so if I understand right, you're asking for continuing until November and also for us to just pause the 60-day statute.
That's correct, yeah.
Requirement. Okay. Any questions or discussion from the commission for the applicant? Questions at all? Is there a motion from the commission then?
I move to continue this item until 60 days, which would be
It would be
November.
the November 19th
Okay.
Planning Commission meeting.
18th,
19th.
19th, so Wednesday.
Oh, sorry.
To our
My attorney
regularly
gave me
scheduled
bad
meeting in
information.
November.
Yeah, so what you saying? Let's make sure we get the right date.
Okay, so it's the 18th.
November 18th.
Okay.
Tuesday.
Then I move that we continue this item until November 18th, 2025. And with that continuance, also incorporating a pause on the 60-day time limit that is contained in the Utah statute for an approval or denial of a conditional use permit.
Second.
Okay, well, it's been moved and seconded to continue this to November 18th. And any discussion on the motion? Did you get everything said that you wanted to say?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Make sure. Okay, good.
I have just a question now. On the 60 days, then when does that begin?
Most likely, this is, again, we're interpreting state statute here. It begins once you make a decision on whether the public utility has satisfied the notification and public workshop requirements in Title 54. Last month, the board exercised that discretion to withhold a decision on this application until that proof was provided. So
Okay.
once you make that decision,
Once you make the vote?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion or questions or comment from the commission? Then we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of continuing, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion is carried, so we will continue this until November 18th. There's no need to do anything else on that item on the agenda, so if you're here to speak to that item, we welcome you back in November.
Okay.
If you're here to hear about the next item on the agenda, you're welcome to stay, and those that are exiting, please do so. All right. Okay, the next item on our agenda is application CU 2025-07 from Richard Mickelson for the TSSD. And before we hear about that,
Mr. Chair, because I sit on the board at TSSD, I need to recuse myself from this item.
okay, you'll be excused. Thank you.
It's a comment.
Okay, so we have this item. Do we have a staff report on this? Okay, Greg?
So this item has been requested by TSC, the Timpanogos Special Service District, requesting conditional use, wow, for a structure, the primary treatment facility building to exceed 40 feet in height. TSSD the site is located here between American Fork and Linden. This is a more closer view of that. Again, a little closer. This is the improvements. This expansion was approved in 2023. At that time, the expansion included structures, the digesters that were approved to exceed to go up to 130 feet in height, and also silos that were approved to go to 90 feet in height. This request is for 75 feet in height, and for the structure here. So that's to the north of the site. This is kind of back out. So it's the one at the top north outlined in red. This is that same building. The request is consistent with our requirements and has met all the requirements of the ordinance for this structure. It is below the height that was approved for the other structures that were on the site that are closer to some of the commercial in the area. This is Linden's general plan designation. So as I said, it was adjacent to American Fork and Linden. American Fork's current zoning designation includes planned industrial, shoreline preservation are the zoning designations for American Fork. Sorry, this is their kind of designation in American Fork. In Linden, it includes regional commercial and mixed use. Mixed use west is the zoning designation. You can see that here. Their general plans are consistent with kind of industrial uses and commercial uses in this area. We've not received any comments. Public Works has not objected to any of the site requests. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. The applicant is also here if you have any questions for the applicant.
Why is
Sorry.
why the extra yellow? Is it just not? I mean, I'm sorry.
So,
is that
sorry,
just
this
a
is
highlight?
this is Linden City, and that's their zoning designation. This is just to show you what the adjacent city's zoning looks like. So the uses in the area are industrial, light industrial, and commercial uses. They're also, let me go a little bit farther. There's that's kind of the entrance area for that. There's kind of a couple views looking in different directions. These were taken back in 2023. So this is kind of from a parking structure looking at the site where they're doing the improvements currently. So that's kind of the area that we're looking at. And these are just kind of the existing general plan designations for this area. Whether some of these have been developed, some of them have not been, but generally they're not uses that would be in opposition to what's existing at TSSD.
What city is this Timpanogos?
It's in the American Fork Annexation Policy Plan. It's currently in unincorporated. That's why we're hearing it. I don't know if American Fork City or TSSD has any plans to make changes to that. But
I mean, does Timpanogos serve multiple cities?
Sorry.
Yeah.
The applicant probably can tell you exactly who they serve, but they serve most of North Utah County.
Okay.
Is what and currently the highest structure there is
Has been approved for 130 feet.
100.
That
So it's
would
been
be
approved for 130. But what's the highest current structure?
I don't know that information. They don't have any approvals to exceed, unless it might be a cell tower. I can't remember seeing a conditional use for any cell towers or anything like that. But currently, we don't have any approvals for any structures over 40 feet at this point. So the digesters are kind of those circular items, kind of in the center, if I remember. No, sorry, not there. They're closer to the property line. They're I'd point, but I can't really point. So they're kind of in the center, more towards the east boundary of the property, or is where the digesters are. Correct? In red, yes.
Okay.
Any more questions? Sorry.
And so, did you tell us what the staff recommendation is on this?
Yeah, so we recommend that we don't have any issues with this application. We recommend that it be approved.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Is the applicant here? Or do they want to speak to their request?
Thank you. I'm Richard Mickelson. I'm the district manager for Timpanogos Special Service District. And as mentioned, we essentially cover from Vineyard all the way over to Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain, all northern Utah County, except for Linden. And as some may know, that waste treatment plants generate odor as we process the waste from the sewer, and the board has been TSSD board's been very conscientious about controlling odors, and this is a request from our board because they are adding a building to enclose this process. Typically, this process is left open and vents to the air. And those who are close by could smell odors that come from that. And so the board is spending a significant amount of money to cap this with the building so that the odors do not escape and we can control the odors. And that was the added height to provide all the services needed for this part of the process. And that's the main request. If you have any additional questions, I could answer those.
Were you able to answer the question if anything's currently over 40 feet?
The answer is yes. In Linden, if you show the multi-story units that are just off the freeway, I think those are in 60 to 70 foot high. I don't know exactly what they are, but when you come off the freeway around that exit 275, those businesses that are just right off the freeway. And the power poles. That's correct. And there is a cell tower that's just off the property. We used to have a cell tower on our property, and we just took that down a year ago. It was causing complications with our pipes that were going to be taken through there, so they didn't coincide well together.
You said you were putting caps on what's already there, the digesters.
There is not currently anything there. This is a new process. As treatment plants get larger, we add more unit operations to the facility. This will actually allow us to grab the organic material out of the waste stream, and we'll concentrate that and send that onto the digesters, which are capped. And then we'll grab the methane gas from that and inject it back into the grid for use, so it's a sustainable process. So they call that renewable natural gas, and so that's what we will be doing when we complete this project in about 4 to 5 years.
And that was my second question, was whether you were incorporating that into it.
Yes, that is exactly what we are doing.
Are there additional approvals that will be needed as you're constructing the equipment needed to do that process?
We had already attained those in 2023, and we probably would not have been back here had the board not kept this process with the building, because I think that would have been about that range to be underneath the 40-foot process. So I don't see another need for another facility that at this point for this upgrade that we're going through.
Just to follow up with that, as far as staff goes, there's based on the plans that they've submitted, they've received all the approvals for the expansion. Any other permits that would be required would be any building permits necessary or other permits that for the actual construction of the project. As far as planning and conditional use reviews, they have all the approvals necessary to proceed forward with that.
So we should deny them since they're doing a favor for the taxpayer.
I don't have any questions.
Any further questions for the applicant? Anyone? Okay, good. Well, thank you. Any discussion from the commission? Okay, a motion? I found it.
Motion here.
I found it. Recommendation.
I make the motion that the Utah County Commission approve a conditional use request, CU 2025-07, for a primary treatment facility structure up to 75 feet in height, subject to staff findings included in the staff report and following conditions, including, do you want me to read 1, 2, and 3? Okay. In addition to 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, then we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that's passed. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to the last item on our agenda, other business. Well, yeah, this is the last item on our agenda. We've pushed this one a few months now.
Those will allow Sullivan Love to also rejoin.
Yes, we'll let Sullivan come back.
Gotta leave when you get the chance.
Okay, we have on the table resolution 2025-01 to replace resolution number 2013-01. Does everyone have this? Okay. Has everyone had an opportunity to read it, and is there any discussion about the resolution that's on the table?
I guess I would just ask that you guys, in your terms, just to clarify what exactly this is going to do and what were the terms beforehand.
So let me kind of just give you a little reminder of what we're doing here. Several months ago, we brought forward for discussion the Planning Commission's existing resolution that was approved in 2013 governing public hearings and accepting public comment. We saw some concerns with that and had that discussion with you in several meetings. We made some changes that came out of those discussions. Those are not included in the red lines. Those are just, because it was getting way too messy. I think we all kind of got the sense that kind of you agreed to this idea of rather than by resolution binding yourselves to accepting public comment, kind of like we have been doing. We've had some good examples recently of what that could look like, and rather have those in a public comment session or opportunity at the end of the meeting after you've made your decision, to kind of avoid some of the concerns that could be coming up with public clamor on these administrative issues. Obviously, certain types of applications, legislative issues will require a public hearing, and we have some guidelines in place to govern that. But just to accept general public comment, it was kind of decided that the best practice and kind of what our legislative body does, the county commission, let's just give the public a period at the end of the meeting to give whatever comment they want. And so we kind of had flushed those out, and I'll get to you, Mr. Head, real quick. And so what this is, these changes that are highlighted in blue, I guess, in this document on the screen, but in red on your handout, was we were asked about maybe some of the medium that come in, whether it's a video link or a presentation. And so we were asked to review and incorporate that. And so Dale, your attorney that represents you, came up with some language, and he can kind of talk about the specifics that are in this version. If you have questions on that, that's kind of where we've been and where we've kind of landed.
So if I had to summarize it, I mean, like you did, number 7 says period of general public comment should be held at the conclusion of the agenda. And I think if I remember from our prior discussions, the main purpose of this is that that there was some potential jeopardy or liability if we were caused, if comment was made that changed our decisions or directed our decisions, that if it wasn't presented in the proper way, that could somehow give us some liability down the road. And so by moving it to the end, it has two effects. One is there will be some people disappointed that they didn't get their comment in before the decision was made. But the second effect is that we aren't held liable for being swayed by public comment that may or may not be true, or whatever, may not have been presented in the right way at this meeting, but we push it to the end so that it's still considered, still on the record, but it's at the end. That basically the gist of it, and by moving it to the end, maybe fewer people will be emotionally fired up on certain topics that we may or may not need to have a hearing for a public comment dialogue. So that's how I see this. But any discussion?
My question is will this then change the November meeting from the way that the last month's meeting went?
Well, I don't think we are required in November to have a public hearing about it again because we already had one. And that's what I was prepared today, is that we didn't need to hear any public comment. We got plenty that was submitted ahead of time, and I thought it brought up some excellent issues that obviously Rocky Mountain Power felt like they needed to go back and address too. So, yeah, in November, I don't anticipate that we are going to necessarily have to. We could, but I don't think we should plan on having a public comment session because we already had it for that issue.
And maybe just as part of that, what items require a hearing versus are maybe optional?
That's a good distinction. Hearing is a very specific term in state code. Right. The matter that was before you tonight, both items were conditional uses, which do not require a public hearing by state law. And so the proposal as written is we don't have public hearings for conditional uses, so there is no right for the public to come and speak at a public hearing on those items. The way it's proposed now is you would not be accepting general public comment during the agenda item on the agenda. If people come in November and they want to speak to the item or speak to anything, they have to wait till the end of the meeting.
I guess my question on that would be, how do we know? I looked at the vote. I wasn't here, so I took the easy way out. I was here for Snowbird. I just need to say it. But my question on that is, how do we know though if there was an issue? How are they supposed to let us know if one of the requirements is public notification? And if somebody has that, how are they supposed to let us know that they don't think that issue was? Is it the only way contacting the staff beforehand, or how are they supposed to let people know that? I guess would be my question.
The notice requirement for conditional use permits is not required by state law, only by county law. Okay. That's something that we've added. So adjacent landowners are given notice. They're entitled to be at the meeting. They're also entitled to provide you information. So there is a way for them to weigh in if they would like to.
And they know that before. I mean, how do they know? My question on this issue is that sometimes reality and perception are much different. And I'll bring my only concern about that I have with adopting this right now is once somebody's in the midst of something, we live in an age of conspiracy. People will say, regardless, that everybody doesn't know that we've been discussing this for months or a year, and the perception will be by somebody will be that we just did this so that we didn't have to go through another meeting on like we did last month, which maybe is partially true, but that's not. It was trying to ease the process all along, and so that's my only concern about is taking an action like this in the midst of a highly controversial issue. And I wish there was a magic wand that we could just let everybody know the rule of, some things are administrative and some things are legislative. You can influence us on legislature, but that's not in 20 years of public service. I don't think we've made much progress, at least in my experience, in helping the public understand that. And so that's my only concern about us adopting this now, that regardless, we've heard most of the concerns from people, but we haven't heard everybody. And I'm still a believer that if you hear a concern, even if when it goes against you, you accept it better. and even though it's not pleasant, we all kind of signed up for some of it. So, and I'm not strong on that opinion, but that's kind of where my gut is, kind of right at the very beginning.
To that point, this still allows for people to submit emails and other materials prior to the meeting, so we're not entirely cutting off all communication from the public. We're still allowing it. It's just more before and after the meeting.
Is that this 1 p.m. deadline that we've got in here? Like as long as it's submitted by 1 p.m. on the day of the scheduled meeting, is that the type of material that could be submitted?
Yes.
Yes.
So if they have a concern, as long as it's submitted in writing by whatever channels here by 1 p.m. on the day, it'll be distributed to this body, and then can be considered because we have time, to digest it, but it won't be presented in the meeting, by a speaker, I guess.
Well, and we're not saying that we can't ever have people speaking either.
Yeah,
we could still have that option at any time to open it up to the public if we feel like the public needs to have that opportunity to speak. There's nothing in here saying that we can't do that. All this is saying is these are our basic rules, and
that was the problem with the 2013 resolution. You had no discretion.
Yeah.
You had to allow the comment, and all of that comment is fodder for litigation, because it's very hard for us to prove you didn't rely on something that was said that probably shouldn't have been said, shouldn't have been allowed to be said during an administrative proceeding.
Well, and I feel like in the last two controversial issues that we've had this year, we've done a pretty good job setting up for the public hearing by explaining the differences between the administrative and the judicial actions and what our abilities and our options are. And the more that the public is able to see that ahead of time, I know with the snowbird issue especially, it calmed the public, and they were like, oh, okay, well, I guess I don't really, there's not a lot that the commission can do. We still allowed them to speak their mind, but this does I feel like this gives us a little bit more ability to say, well, this is our base rules, and if we may, we can change it if we feel like we need to, but we don't have to.
Well, maybe a couple quick thoughts. One thing that we can do from a staff perspective is to bolster our notice language that goes out that gives them that information to where they could submit, and and be clear that that's the avenue for submitting a comment. Remember, these are generally going to be conditional uses where you're really kind of doing a checkbox, but you are kind of looking for adverse effects. And really, the proper way for you to digest something is to have it ahead of time. You're not kind of on the spot, and you can kind of have some time to.
That's what especially the last two meetings, I've been so glad that we had the information ahead of time. I can't imagine how I would be able to process it all in the public hearing. But having it ahead of time, I was able to go and do some research on my own and get some questions ahead of time ready to present. So,
and then to your point, Seth, is if there's something that elevates to like, hey, we need some more information, you could potentially invite that person to say, this is an adverse effect we want to know more about. Maybe invite them to come and speak through that discretion rather than kind of the way it's
than just opening it up for everybody.
And I do think that there was in the last meeting, I think it was organized in a way. To me, it seemed clearly organized to delay the meeting or to postpone it at a minimum, a decision, and they were effective at that. And I think that if we adopt this, we can still hear what they have to say, but we don't have to worry about them delaying the meeting.
Well, and if we adopt this, I also hope that we can stick more clearly to the 3 and 7 minutes. Like,
yeah,
there's your 3 minutes. The time is up, and you've had your say. Thank you.
We're hoping from a staff's perspective that that's going to be the exception more than the rule, to having someone speak during the item. I hope it would be rare enough that you're getting the information ahead of time. You can kind of discern this is more of a public clamor in their comment. They can still submit whatever they want in their written comment, and hopefully, we can direct you to say, yeah, you can't really pay attention to it. I just don't want it there, and focus on where it is, and really not have the need to really open it up too much, because then it's the expectation that everyone's going to want to speak.
So you talked about in the notice materials, maybe changing what's on there. Are you talking about what's up at the head of the agenda, or are you talking about a different notice?
Potentially both. I mean, I think right now we already do direct them where they can send comments, but we can kind of look at that and bolster it so it's clear, like, this is the way to provide comment, is through sending this to this website or this email, and that'll be forwarded.
And
to
here's the deadline,
Right.
so on. Yeah.
So right now, it doesn't have a time on it. It just says prior to the meeting. And on this agenda, we don't have any public hearing items. I'm pretty sure that those are labeled.
Yes.
This item, public hearing. What may not be understood is that anything not labeled public hearing doesn't come with a public hearing. Maybe we can clarify that as well.
We can look at some
Like
options.
these, like the way that I've seen it split up before is these are items that are this kind, no public hearing is held on these items. And then he goes to the next section and says, these are public hearing items, public hearing will be held.
Yeah,
So,
might be good on that language. to
strongly
say-
encourage them.
Say public comment may not be taken at the meeting.
Yeah, I
It's
think,
up
didn't
front.
we used to have that on the agenda or
We
something
would just
along?
identify the public hearing.
We did. We've identified those that have public.
Right.
You know.
So yeah, we kind of organize it by the type, but we can be more clear and provide some clarification.
Well, and if you pass this resolution, the last item, item E, instead of adjourn, would be public comment period on every agenda. So they will see that.
Yep.
It works very much like the county commission does it now.
Okay.
I have a question. So I just want clarity. It's confusing to me. So, so before the meeting, we're allowed to receive emails that you guys funnel our way, and then, which is obviously going to give us information. We're going to be able to formulate an opinion about how we feel about something, right? Is that correct? Is that why we're getting the emails? Why are we getting that information?
I wouldn't say necessarily to formulate opinion, but to come prepared with knowledge and questions.
Gather information on the
Okay,
matter.
so gather informations, but either way, if it's in this situation, it's kind of controversial, right? Obviously, like controversy, we're going to get something from the company. We're going to get something from the people that are going to be directly impacted, right? And so I'm having a hard time. If I read that information and I read enough of it, I can't imagine not having an opinion about at least what I want to decide on, right?
But my understanding is the number one thing is disclosure, is transparency. So, because if we get things in writing, then that gives the other side the opportunity. They know what we've been seeing, and so that's the difference. Is that if people just come, this last meeting, I had somebody come to my house, and I disclosed that, and but at least Rocky Mountain Power had the opportunity. They know what we talked about. It wasn't a long conversation. He gave me basically the brochure, but I think what you want to do is we're always going to have countering information that might not be. But as long as we have a chance to have council's opinion as well as the other side, that's how you resolve that issue.
Right, but I'm going to get the other side's opinion through the emails.
Yeah, but that's
It's gonna. As a thinking, rational person, I'm going to come to a conclusion about what I think about that issue. Right, and so that's what I'm confused about. And so when somebody comes, and so we can formulate an opinion or some attitude about what we think about that issue, but for some reason, if somebody comes and talks to us about it, then we can't formulate opinion. Do you see what I mean?
Well,
That's what I'm confused with. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, you can always take information at the meeting from the applicant, or if you choose to ask someone from like a neighbor to give comment. Again, our role is to make sure that you're educated on what you're looking at and what you're not looking at. This isn't these conditional uses. Is this use appropriate, or should this be allowed? That's already been determined by ordinance. We're only looking at, are there adverse effects that are reasonably anticipated adverse effects? And if so, how can we reasonably mitigate them but by the list that's provided in the ordinance? And so that's where you should really be focused. And we'll try to direct that to you in our staff report so that you can kind of clear out all the fluff and get down to what you're really deciding.
See, that's why we pay top dollars for council and staff, is they're supposed to convince us that all that other stuff that you heard was wrong.
You're more than welcome to come to the meeting and say, can we talk? Is this an issue that we can decide on, or is this something that I can consider, and we can have that
Well, that
direction.
was my understanding of this whole process, which didn't make sense. Where there, and you talked about like checking the box, right? That sometimes we're just here to check the box, and it didn't make sense to me if people are coming up thinking that what they're saying is supposed to influence our opinions. And that was my biggest concern, was people coming up here thinking that it seemed almost like a facade. Like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to have an opinion and it's going to matter. But it seems like in this case, it was effective.
Well, there will be items where you will be able to,
Right.
their opinions can matter. And
You know what I'm
it can
saying?
be
In this
discretionary.
past situation, the fact that people came forward and had really strong opinions, and I wasn't at the meeting, that it did delay it. It delayed the application. But the reality is, like, it's going to go through anyways. We're just looking at like things that maybe have fallen through the cracks. That you just want to do your due diligence, and so is that, am I understanding it? Is that what?
But I would argue, though, that that's a realistic, though. If there's reasonable doubt that everybody got, they're supposed to be notified. If they, that's actually part of our job. If there's a reasonable doubt that not everybody got notified, then that's actually a legitimate reason to do it.
Yeah.
The problem that most people have is, at least my understanding is, people don't realize that their time on these decisions was actually, when they should have influenced the process, is during the conditional use plan, the corridor plan. They should be lobbying their legislator, because a lot of these decisions, the public still has influence, but those decisions were made years ago. And so I think the one thing we will need to teach people is that you can influence this process in the future, but these decisions have already been made by the legislature. They've already been made by the county commissioners when they adopted the conditional use requirements. A lot of people don't understand. They think that they don't have a voice. Well, they do have a voice. It was just earlier than this meeting.
And that was my original concern, was having people come up here and then ultimately we can't base anything on what they say, because the decisions, it's way past that. But it does seem like in this situation, I mean, it was hours, right? It was like 3 hours or longer.
Let's say 4.
Okay, 4 hours. I was watching on YouTube, like it, but I was definitely more comfortable. But you guys were. But the fact that they came up and did present, if we had this rule in place, we would have made a decision not having heard what their concerns were, and I wonder if we would make the same decision.
Well, they would still have the ability to provide written documentation, which many of them did.
Mhm.
And to the point we're talking about on this side, keep in mind, this transmission corridor is a very, very different animal. We're dealing with notification that we don't deal with on any other conditional use. So there was these other rules in play that the Planning Commission took advantage of, or for lack of a better word, utilized, because of some of the evidence that perhaps that notification didn't elevate to the threshold they felt that it was met. And so that can still be obtained through this new process.
Yeah, that's my only thing, is like the outcome. Because I think, I mean, I applaud you guys. I mean, it was great to watch. How concerned you were.
Thank you.
And I think it's great. But at the same time, I just wonder if this other had been in effect, if you would have felt so.
I had the same concerns after reviewing all the information ahead of time as I did when we finally took the vote.
Okay.
I felt like I didn't get anything out of the public comment that I didn't already had reviewed from what had been submitted. It was nice to kind of hear some of the back and forth, but I think that we could utilize, okay, do we have a representative, for example, from the public that could speak to this or something, invite them up if we felt like that was, again, this doesn't stop us from inviting public comment. It just gives us a more organized base to go from.
But I would also argue, though, I still think, though, you look at I wasn't here, for the last meeting, but I was here for the And I think the motions were pretty high on the snowbird meeting, and I thought, the way that the way that Karen led it, and then some of the other things that we talked about. But it didn't change it. But I do think that people didn't leave with a bitter feeling. I mean, the people were disappointed, but they didn't leave with a bitter feeling. And so I can't. I don't think it was a waste of time, even though I missed my grandson's birthday party. I mean, sometimes that's part of what we've signed up for. So I think it is. It's not like I think your 4-hour meeting was wasted. I think.
But how would that look now if we change this? Would people still get an opportunity to speak, or just be limited?
Well, I think they would be notified that they can submit by before the meeting, and those will be they're included in the public.
I don't think there'll be another notice, though, will there? Will there be another notice of the 60?
Not on that one, because that was continued to a date certain.
Yeah.
So, but generally, yes, the backup that we receive is provided on our website.
It's all available for the public to also see. So, I mean, anything that would be submitted, they would be able to get ahead of time. I think it'll keep our meetings moving a little quicker. And I mean, in this case, we had this on the agenda last month, but we decided we couldn't. We were out of time at 11:30 p.m. So
they can still. Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Chair. To your point, Lorraine, they can still leave the meeting and make a comment. They can still feel like, hey, I went to the meeting, I was at least able to make my comment. It'll be at the end, or they can provide it up ahead.
In my mind, if we had this in a resolution before the meeting last time, I don't think that it really would have changed a whole lot, except perhaps it maybe saved us 30 minutes, maybe. But it just gives us that ability to fall back on, as opposed to.
Well, it gives you the ability to kind of control which comments you want to receive.
Yeah.
You can say, hey, this one I want to know more information about. I want to know more information about noise or whatever the issue is. And you can invite that person who presented that comment in writing to say, can you come and speak to this?
Yeah. And as long as we use it, because I do think my experience will be, though, is if we rely solely on the comments at the end of the meeting, I think those comments at the end of the meeting will be sharper than they would have been had they done it before. I think they'll be more combative. But anyway,
that actually hasn't been our experience with the county commission. It's worked really well. People come in and say, hey, I appreciate how the commission thought about this. Let me tell you what I think's wrong or good about it. And they make their comment and they go on. One thing I should mention that I think will change everything drastically is there will no longer be the list back here.
Right.
Sign it up. We'll take that out of the script. I felt like that already set you up for failure last. And failure in the sense of we spent a lot of time and heard a lot of comment that was not helpful. I'm sorry, it wasn't. To hear about someone's kids playing in a backyard, I don't know if that really got to a detrimental effect that has a condition that can be imposed to mitigate it. I just don't.
Right.
So that will change drastically for a public hearing. We'll probably still have the sign-up sheet. But again, that will be listed right at the top. There's a public hearing at this meeting. Probably the first thing you do in the meeting, and then you'll have to take that list and call people off. But for everything else, right now, there has to be a list of speakers for every item on your agenda. According to the 2013 resolution, that would change.
And that eliminates a lot of confusion back there.
A lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's been a great complication to your meetings.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
If there are multiple items on the agenda that have a public hearing, should we have multiple sign-up sheets?
There should only be a sheet for each public hearing.
Yeah.
Public hearings are statutorily required, so we have to track those very carefully. And so there should be a separate sheet for each of them, with the title for that hearing. Again, it's a hearing. It's almost like court. You're taking that comment, and it's on the record. It's required by law. So it's pretty important.
What changes in a public hearing where comments might be made, where there's some legal issues or liability issues incurred by decisions we make versus, I mean, obviously if they're making comments after we've voted, there's none, but in a public hearing that could occur, correct?
Public hearings are usually only for legislative items. You're allowed to hear any comment on a legislative item. It's wide open. So there isn't that liability that we have on a legislative action.
And the interesting thing too, the 60 days that we waived is actually there to protect the applicant, because a lot of times, you know, as somebody that has developed in a previous earlier in my career, you know, sometimes you just want the legislature it's called a ripcord. They want that decision have to be made in 60 days because while you're in this continuation period, they can't take it to court. So there's got to be a final action. You can't sue against a continuation. And so we actually did, you know, it was actually, most people don't recognize on Rocky Mountains Power, they actually did a favor because they could have said, we wanted this to start last month. You know, we're the ones that are asking for 60 more days. They could have pushed it, then they could have gone straight, and they're going to win in court. They're going to win in court. We know that. But so there are things to protect the applicant, you know, because continuation sometimes is not necessarily a good thing if you're paying, you know, interest on your project.
Mm-hmm. But it's not going to be a bad thing if they actually learn to educate people what's happening in their backyards.
Yeah.
I mean, that's you know, especially in this day and age with, I mean, just post something on Spanish Fork Facebook page. Why can't you do that? I mean, everybody reads that, right? Or post something on the Salem Facebook page. So I think that's actually a positive thing that comes out of this. It helps them be more communicative, and people don't feel like somebody's throwing like a curveball at them.
Mm-hmm. And my reaction that you were reacting to kind of is that sometimes there is a difference between theory and practical. Again, sometimes you do things in the legislative. It's just like an argument sometimes with my wife, and I'm not saying that my wife is sometimes more logical than I am, but sometimes logic doesn't help you with the relationship. Sometimes you have to hear just both sides, and so as long as we remember that, and that I occasionally allow it, then but I still am a little bit concerned that the conspiracy theorists will be out there, even though it's been on there. But they'll not go away. But
they're not going away.
I don't think you can do anything to satisfy either. There will always be somebody who disagrees with the decisions that we make and the way that we do things, no matter what rules we put in place. So really what we do is just put the best rules in place that we can, and then we allow ways to mitigate things that come up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hearing that, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we adopt this resolution number 2025-01.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. And before we vote, just one more question I have as part of discussion on this. So if we're in the meeting that's not a public hearing, but we want to hear from someone, it's just we can vote on it, or just up to the chair, or how does that work?
All power to the chair, almighty chair.
No, I really want to know. I mean, is it so? If we want, okay, we just said maybe someone had a problem with notification, and we thought maybe someone could speak to that because I don't know, like you mentioned just a few minutes ago, we can still hear that. What's the process we would use to hear that?
Someone would need to make a motion.
Make a motion from the commission.
We would ask you to vote on that because it would be out of order.
Yep.
It's not on the agenda.
Right.
The applicant is not prepared to do that. Staff's not prepared to do that. There could be some liability in having someone speak. So at that point, we'd ask you, you better vote on this because we're going to be stuck with whatever you decide.
Okay. Does that? I mean, I really want to get that out here because that's not really in this. But
yeah, and
that I think it's an important point that if we do want to hear from someone, we can
be in there, and so it's sort of like understood, or is it implied?
It would actually be part of the parliamentary rules that you're subject to anyway. Mm-hmm. Someone making a motion, I'd like to hear from this person.
So Someone
Vote on
makes
it.
a motion and we vote on it. We can hear from who.
We just have to know at the time that we can make that motion.
Yeah.
But is the liability any less or any more than it currently is the way we're operating to the county? Does this?
I was terrified.
If we take an exception now that we have this in place, does that make it worse? Do you think that increases the county's liability, or
No, no. Your last meeting was terrifying to a lawyer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
This way, having you look at a specific item, a specific person, and talk about it, and have all of you vote on that gives me much more comfort.
Because
than
it
just
narrows
having a steady
it.
stream of people coming up here just saying whatever they want. Yeah, this would be much better.
I think we also need to keep in mind that this is a process that we're trying to make fair to both sides. The public can come in and we allow open forum with person after person after person. The applicant doesn't have the same process available to them. They aren't able to go out and bring in more specialists, more attorneys, more whoever for their side. They're stuck with what they've got. So by putting rules in place, we're also making sure that the process is equal to both sides. A little bit.
Can I make it whose rule? I don't know whose rules we use, but can I make a substitute? Huh?
Use Rosenberg's by resolution. You use Rosenberg out of California and not Roberts. And you can change that if you want. Okay. That's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah. Can I under those rules? Can I make a substitute motion?
Yes.
I would stick with that, but I would actually like to formally include Karen's comments about what she expressed on beefing up the notice policy. I just want that in
instead of a substitute, would you ask for a friendly amendment?
Oh, okay. A friendly amendment.
Number 8.
And that would be that we clearly communicate in our notice that kind of explain, try to put out the fire beforehand. I mean, so however that language, I trust staff. I think if you look at the record and the way that Karen described it, as far as the noticing, but I would just like that to be part of this resolution.
That's fine. Do we need some language, or will you do that for us?
I think
Does it need
what
to
I've
be
heard, it's duly noted that we will be very clear about how a person can provide comment and participate in providing that type of comment in the notice.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I think that's great.
And
No
we'll
problem.
clarify the agenda also to the effect that we talked about tonight.
Okay. I'm
Second?
okay.
Second the amendment.
Did we?
Both of the things.
Second the amendment.
Second the amendment.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Can we just do
Roll call.
do we need to do a roll call on this one?
Vote.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have a new resolution to guide us.
We are resolved.
We are
You'll
resolved.
be terrified. We don't want you terrified.
I already feel better. I already feel better.
Sleep a little bit better.
Yes.
I was waiting for some good Perry Mason moments.
Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Okay, we've reached the end of our agenda and we are adjourned. Thank you.